It's crazy, but it's
You're watching Channel Z, the world's leading zombie apocalypse channel, broadcasting live from Studio Z.
Makes me act the way I do.
Welcome to Brain Dead Theater. I'm your host for today, Liz Grumbach. This is the show where we examine apocalypse media, television, and movies to explore what we learn of our current apocalyptic time. And I'm not gonna lie, my co-host Alana, I cannot find her today, and I'm not feeling my best. We might have to have some
She's okay.
So it looks like Liz was taken by the zombie horde.
Yeah, I guess so.
All right. I guess it means we're gonna take over for today.
Yeah, show must go on, right?
Absolutely. So here we are. So right now, as college students, we are, we just faced our own apocalypse, and we're going into our futures here. As you and I are both ASU students, in the film and media productions track.
Yeah.
I find myself here because I'm really passionate about animation, and I'm really passionate about like stop motion and production as a whole, and just trying to find my place and where I exist.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm in the film school more so just for a broad understanding of everything. But right now I'm moving more into like the digital production of kind of everything. So more like Unreal Engine 5, for example, or like building a scene and then shooting within it with the cinematography cameras that are in the program, stuff like that.
Yeah, do you have any like examples of like media that inspires you to like want to create?
I think the media, just because it's a media I've consumed a lot, being video games.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I really liked the dynamic between, just when a character is controlled by the player, and then it moves into a cutscene. How the player, is able to just enjoy that ride and give some lore.
Absolutely. You feel like fully immersed in what you're doing. And you talked a little bit about earlier, like offset, your interest in working with what's the word I'm looking for?
VR?
Looking for VR, yeah.
Gotcha, yeah. I've done a little bit of VR cinematography as well, and I think it's a really exciting medium because it's for example, I go within the VR space, I put my headset on, I have my controllers, like anyone would playing a game, but the tools I have, for example, I would have a camera that I can throw out and it would sit there and hover.
Yeah.
And then I could use my controllers to pilot it like a drone. And it's just absolutely incredible because I can get any shot that I can think of, which is very difficult to do, with the resources in real life. If I wanted a crane shot, I would need a crane.
Absolutely.
That's expensive. That costs
money. It's like
money.
You can physically work around like in a 3D space without having to physically be there and recording.
Absolutely.
We have a question from the zombies.
All right, the zombies have a question. Let's hear about it.
In 5 years, can you envision the place you would like to be?
I wish I had more of an idea, like a solid idea of where I want to be in 5 years, because I feel like the industry is this really giant like monster that you can find your place in the future. I know what I'm passionate about now and what I like to do. I'm hoping one day I can be, working on my own projects or working on somebody else's, whether it be directing or working on physically editing something or putting something together. What about you?
Other brain.
I think hopefully I would like to be just doing things that I enjoy, because I feel like there's a chance to be funneled into doing film and doing media in situations where it's kind of laborious or tedious, because sitting in front of a computer for hours and hours, it's draining. I think it's almost near necessary to be able to edit or create or film whatever you need to do on, and have it be something that you're passionate about and enjoy doing.
Absolutely.
So I see myself maybe doing something like game cinematics, or maybe just like demos of worlds in VR, something of the sort, you know.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
A lot of building to happen there.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And I mean, that's the thing, is the industry that I'm looking into is very fresh.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of putting, hopefully not too much on the line by, you know, making a lot of my specialty more of, you know, virtual stuff,
Yeah.
you know, like VR or like Unreal Engine 5, you know, they're pretty blossoming right now.
Absolutely.
Another zombie question.
All right.
Do you feel like we are living through the apocalypse?
Yes. Very simply. I feel like we just faced, you know, through COVID. I graduated in 2020, and it sort of like flipped my whole world around. And I think it probably changed my pathway too. For
Really?
you too, as well?
What do you mean by pathway, if you don't mind me asking?
Well, like I feel like I graduated in 2020, and then I went right to like online. So it wasn't like that, like, you know, dream scenario where you're, you know, starting off right out of college or right out of high school, like walking on campus and going to classes. I remember being in my first ceramics class with a mask and like not being able to recognize anybody in the class afterwards.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's crazy. I'd say yeah, we're definitely living through the apocalypse, but it's more of like it's like a fancy apocalypse, because I think, like, for example, like the cyberpunk genre, it could be compared to pretty dystopian, you know, apocalyptic nature, but it's more of, we live in that world of, you know, people can, you know, they're scavenging for resources, basically, you know, and everyone's struggling, but there's the big billboards and there's the big lights and everything.
Absolutely.
But then you look down right underneath, and there's someone that's like homeless, and it's really sad. It's a very dystopian environment.
It is.
So it's very apocalyptic, but
It's
a
good.
fancy apocalypse.
Yeah, so like it's like apocalypse plus hors d'oeuvres.
Yeah, something of the sort. Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah.
So how do you feel this like whole situation affected your college experience? COVID, I mean.
Okay.
I'm another student behind the camera, by the way.
Hello. You want to start?
No, you can definitely start for sure.
Okay, so I guess making friends has been, you know, because I feel like a lot of the friendships and connections that I've made through college have been like online. I feel like I've known somebody like by their you know, by like just pixels in this corner of my screen before I met them, and was like, oh my gosh, like you're the person who I've been grouping with on assignments, or you are the person who made that comment on my work, you know, because it's just how it's been.
Yeah, definitely. I'm gonna piggyback off that and just say that I think the whole friendship aspect is extremely difficult now, because I just noticed a lot of, you know, people around me will connect themselves to friends who are just fun instead of good for them. And I think, you know, people really struggle with that, because it's hard to make friends in the first place. So when you make one, a lot of, you know, the common sense goes out the window, and it's just like, oh, this person's fun, I like spending time with them, but a lot of the time it's not good for them, and that could impact them academically or just like socially, or, you know, just in the long term. But I think it's interesting because I spent a lot of quarantine in VR, right? Just in a VR space, with a lot of people in different avatars, you know, and it was wonderful. I didn't feel lonely because I had, you know, not physical beings, but, you know, they're virtual beings, but they were three-dimensional.
Yeah.
So, and that was very interesting, but it made me realize after spending many, many hours that nothing can replicate real human interaction, no matter what.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, like
That's
no matter
a really
how.
good point.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think like what were you in VR with other people, like real people?
Yeah, so that was pretty interesting, because the space, for example, the setting could be anything. You know, it could be just like a ship, a cruise ship. It could be in space where you're just walking on stars, you know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the people could dress as anything they wanted to. They could be anything they wanted to, whether that's like a bowling ball floating around with a face on it, or you know, or just a character from a video game. And I think in that sense, because people could look whatever way they wanted to, they had the courage and I saw a lot of people be able to become like less socially awkward they were before, and they went into the game, and they're not like super worried about talking to people because they can be fully confident in their body
No,
and
yeah,
fully confident.
exactly.
Yeah, it's just the soul that is talking to each other, and
Yeah,
that's super interesting.
It's basically essentially talking. People have a lot more confidence behind a screen.
Absolutely.
So VR kind of adds an extra element of like this 3D space that kind of tries to replicate humanity in a way.
Yeah.
Now I will agree it can't. There's no like physical dynamics, like reading emotions, facial expressions, things like that. It can't be replicated even through a Zoom call, like a video call at all. I gotta say, it sounds like you spent most of quarantine literally at Ready Player One.
That's a good descriptor. That's how I felt. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Sweet.
Yeah. So
Could I ask a human question?
Sure.
yeah.
Now that we live in a world where we already have VR, what would you like to see in the future? 5 years from now, what would you like the entertainment industry to introduce?
That's a robot.
Robot.
Robot. And I would just like to know what you would like from your entertainment, since we are already in the world of VR. What are the next steps?
I think it'd be cool to. I think they're already kind of doing this. It's just a random thought, but it'd be cool to interact with VR and like roller coasters. Like I've seen they've kind of done that more and more. I think that's kind of cool. So like I don't guess like amusement rides and then roller coasters and stuff, and then mixture of VR and storytelling through that way.
For sure.
'Cause I feel like it's more immersive.
I have to say though, VR rides in
Mhm.
any form are sickening. I think
Are they?
I think they're the one of the most jarring experiences you can have in VR.
Yeah.
Maybe not a roller coaster. I haven't had bad experiences with roller coasters, but there are like carnival rides that the swinging
Yeah.
one that also spins and rotates.
Okay.
I tried to do that and I was sick.
With
10
like a VR
seconds.
goggles on.
Oh yeah, with the VR
That's
headset
crazy
on.
though.
It's the disconnect between you moving and not actually moving, and your brain gets super sick. That's why you have to look out the window in a car ride, because you'll get sick because your brain won't know
That's
where
crazy.
you're going. And that's why people get so sick. But yeah.
I don't know if this counts as VR, but like there's been like articles and stuff about like trying to replicate like somebody's personality or like their, like it's to to remember like somebody who's like died, and have like a VR or a like digital version of that person's like whole identity. And we talked about like how like it doesn't like translate the same as like real to like person to person like interactions, but something kind of like that.
That is cool. And going back to the media question, I think 5 years is. I feel like the space will be pretty similar in 5 years. When talking about like long term, just crazy futuristic things.
Mhm.
I'm thinking of brain dances, referring to a term from cyberpunk, right?
Mhm.
And a brain dance is where data is stored based off someone's memory or based off something that they've experienced. And what you can do is plug a chip into the back of your head, and it basically puts you into this full dive where you experience the things, the feelings, the emotions, the surroundings, the visuals. And I think that would be a very interesting thing to experience, because there are editors for that, right? In the world of cyberpunk, there are editors, and they'll get the footage or the brain dance footage and they'll clip it together into very interesting things. And I think that'd be a cool thing to see just in the film industry. It doesn't have to be someone real life experiences. It can be like a fantasy Marvel film or something of the sort, and just be that, super immersive. You're like living the environment, and you take off the headset and everything's back to normal.
That's crazy to imagine that there's so much emotion that goes into something that isn't like entirely real,
Yeah, absolutely.
I have a question.
Sure.
Should we try to live more within virtual reality instead of dealing with this real world stuff? Should we just go and just move our lives into VR?
I think that would make it so that we are not protecting what already exists, because there is beauty in what already exists on our planet, and if we don't put action to protect it, we are going to find ourselves in more of an apocalyptic area than ever.
Yeah, no, I agree 100%.
I will say, as like case in point to that, like we are kind of moving towards a more, I don't want to say like chronically online, but yeah, we're very online savvy nowadays. And, you know, that could very well turn into something that is virtually, we could be living in a mixed reality. I personally think that would be a bad thing because, like we mentioned before, nothing, it doesn't match the energy that you get in person. There's nothing that can compare to that. So, like, if you had to spend your entire life, like we all just did, online, right? I think things would be a lot worse because people, like, everybody was so depressed over COVID. And part of the reason was because we couldn't see our friends, we couldn't see parts of our family, et cetera, and we couldn't be like in person. And if you got the virus, you were shunned to a bedroom by yourself, right?
Yeah,
and that just made everything worse. I know when I had it, I went insane in my room because I couldn't do anything. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think part of being human is longing for that connection to other people.
Exactly. Not just connection, but physical connection.
I think relating to back to the question, I think it's like a media literacy thing. I think with just phones alone, we struggle with using them correctly and like knowing how much we should be using them and how to use them in like a proper and healthy way. And I think we're already struggling with that with VR, like an insane amount. I have met people in VR, and it's interesting because in this world that I spent, time zones shift. So you never have to get off. You never have to go to sleep because, you know, in our real life, it's a lot of, oh, my friends are going to sleep. It's, 2 a.m. We got to go to bed. But in VR, one time zone is awake, and then the next time zone is awake, and the next time zone is awake. So people who wanted to stay up will stay up. And I've met people who have been in there for 7 days just drinking or doing, recreational activities. Yeah.
Do you think that you, through VR, have made real connections with people that you would want to continue on like for the rest of your life?
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think there are people in VR. I think meeting people in VR is very interesting because you kind of have to decide whether they are putting on, the virtual act or if they are being more genuine than they would be in real life.
Absolutely.
Because a lot of people are that good side where, they have no reason to hide, they think, oh, I'm not going to ever see this person in real life, which is usually the case. You're talking to someone from Italy, the chances of you meeting this person is very slim. So they're willing to open up and they're willing to have genuine connections with you.
Absolutely.
Because you're not going to, judge them or hold them. You're not within their vicinity, so it's pretty interesting.
It feels like you can present yourself like just through media or just through online in general. You can present yourself in any way that you would want to. Like whether it be like on a dating app profile picture with, edited photos, or you can make yourself look and be whoever you want. And you can be changing that personality all the time.
People can they really open up a lot more online. Like in person, you're not going to immediately tell someone everything about you, but online, I've had friends do that. Like I meet someone and then all of a sudden I know, everything that's happening in their life on a week-to-week basis, whereas that would not be a norm had we been friends in real life. You know what I mean? And I think there's like a good point to make about just the psychology of human brains. Like there is a part of our brain that immediately forms an opinion about somebody, whether we like it or not, subconsciously or consciously, based on just the way we look.
Absolutely.
I know that a lot of people have, or that most people will form an opinion about somebody before they even talk to that person, right? And opinions can change after you talk to somebody, but just to go into something that VR and just any online relationship takes that out of the equation.
Absolutely.
So now you're going into it either extremely like with a very positive bias, or let's say you're playing a game and you're pissed at that person, then you're going in with a very negative bias, and it's going to be much harder, in my opinion, to change that opinion that you have of the person that you're talking to, which can create friendships or make people fight, you know?
Yeah.
Do you think you can make like an assumption on somebody just based on the way that they sound or the way that they present themselves through their voice?
I think we do. I think that we just simply do subconsciously.
Mhm.
People do can't stop themselves.
Yeah.
As much as we try and as much as we say, don't ever judge a book by its cover, I think subconsciously every time you meet somebody, neurons in your brain are firing every single time. Every time they make a habit, you make note of that.
Mhm.
Every time they do something or say something, you make note of that. And then, like I have friends that I've been friends with for 9 years, and I like one of my best friends of all time. Like I've been friends with him since grade school, and I know all of his habits, and I have ones that I just know that annoy me. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
You can't necessarily not like, it's not like you don't have to like a person, because there's some things that every person doesn't like about another.
Yeah.
But I feel like in general, we tend to make assumptions just right off the bat.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's the thing about friends, though, is in everyone you're going to find flaws, but friends are the people who that their soul is good.
Mhm.
You spend enough time around them that you resonate, so you are able to look past those flaws.
Exactly.
And not judge them too harshly for it. But I'm just gonna jump back really quick and just finish off the should we move into VR topic. I think it's a matter of control. Who has their hand on the universe that we spend time in? Because right now Meta wants to do that, and that's Mark Zuckerberg's territory, his land. So that's up to us if we want to exist in a world fully controlled, not just because
I
right
know.
now we have some
There's
sort
some
of
competition, but if
Yeah.
Meta does follow through with their plan, they will dominate that game. And the thing is like, we don't really do much about monopolies in this country, in my opinion. So if Meta takes over the VR landscape entirely, then they're free to do whatever they want,
Sure.
And we all know, like, don't even get me started on companies, harvesting our data and using that to sell back at us the things that we talk about. I think that could really be blown up insanely.
And VR is a very dangerous
VR.
spot for that.
Question.
Question.
Human question. Do you think the modern etiquette will change if we move into VR, even if it's just like
I feel like
after work, not like full VR?
Etiquette?
I feel like etiquette even changed just like after like being away from like out of 2020 and into 2021, like how we present ourselves to people changed, like through having to wear a mask. I remember running customer service and like making faces underneath my mask because people are frustrating. And I feel like that translated,
I think we're in an interesting gray zone with with that right now, because right now in VR there's phantom touch, where if your avatar is touching another avatar, that person, their human brain is able to feel the sensation of touch.
It's a bodysuit, right?
No, I'm talking about
like
just
Phantom being
brain tricks. That's all this is.
Oh,
That's what
that's
phantom touch
crazy.
is. So there's that, and there's also suits that
I've
you
seen
can
the
feel
suits, I've
physical
never heard of
touch. But in VR, because everyone is attractive, right?
Mhm.
Even all friends are very much so, they're just they don't mind like cuddling and stuff like that, right? They're very
Yeah.
intimate with each other because bodies aren't this sacred temple. Bodies are pixels. Bodies are something that you want to present, because some people have even crafted them themselves and took the time, and they're like, look at me, like I made this outfit.
That's a
couldn't-
really interesting point. Like, etiquette is fluid. It's constantly changing. we grow as a species.
Mhm.
That's a really cool thing to think about, or like unfortunate actually, because like our human brains, I've seen people make assumptions about what someone will look like based on what their avatar looks like, and then when they find out what that person actually looks like, right, there's a negative assumption or a positive one. I've seen a lot of people get harassed on the internet because they've, shown their faces after being someone completely different for so long, and then they get harassed because they don't look like what the majority of people thought they looked like. You know what I mean?
I have another human question. Are there secret songs, jokes, or codes that people use online to build trust?
Yes.
Yeah.
Have you ever been rickrolled before?
It's a
That's a
classic.
good point. Yeah.
What's that?
You've
Oh,
never-
you take a video.
I think somebody should send you a link.
Yeah.
That's the only way to send it, right? You can't just show someone a Rick.
Uh-huh.
You know, you gotta
Yeah.
you gotta Rickroll
What
someone.
message are you sending each other when you are rickrolling? What is that? What sort of group signaling does that involve?
Like, haha, I got you. Prank.
It's,
That's literally what it is. Like,
Never gonna give you up, never gonna let you go.
it's the Rick Astley song. It's the music video of him, and if you send it to somebody, usually under a comment section on like YouTube or something, they will send it saying like, get free, like it'll be like on a ad for a game, and it'll be like, get free game currency here at this link, and then you click on the link and it takes you to the YouTube video of Rick Astley's music video. That's basically what it is. It's just a form of like,
And if you meet someone else who rickrolls people, do you then know you can trust them because they also know your secret codes?
I think that's interesting. I think the Rickroll in general has been so widespread, especially when it first started happening. It was so prominent. It's now more so. It's surprising if someone hasn't been Rickrolled, right? So I think it's just a common thing that we can all share and laugh about. It's like, hey,
especially with our generation, it's kind of one of those old things that is more of a nostalgia thing now.
Absolutely.
Like, haha, I remember when this was popular. I was like 15. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
We didn't start off the live stream introducing ourselves, so we had to do that really quickly. So my name is Annie.
My name is Sebastian.
And behind our camera,
Matt.
We have Matt behind our camera. And it looks like we have our final question coming in.
What's your favorite movie?
Oh man. I recently watched Princess Mononoke. It's a Ghibli film. It's beautiful and I love it.
All of Ghibli stuff is amazing.
Absolutely. I love it, like when they like take the bow and arrow and there's like arms flying off and like all kinds. It's
Yeah, I don't know
Ghibli films are great.
how agonizing that job is to work at Studio Ghibli, but
I can imagine.
Put out some very high quality work.
Some really intricate work.
I'm gonna just say because I'm struggling with that favorite movie one. You know, that's a hot topic.
That's a hard one to do. I have like 10 on the list that I could like blare out right now, but
yeah, I think there's a bunch of different movies that I like, but just because you said Princess Mononoke, I'm gonna have to say Grave of the Fireflies.
Oh, that one's heart wrenching. That one's so hard to like sit through.
And the
I
reason,
cried really hard for that one.
The reason for that is because I think that was the first movie that moved me. You know,
absolutely.
I've seen a bunch of sad movies before that. You know, Fault in Our Stars, and they were sad. I teared up, but Princess Mononoke was not only just a movie that was really moving, but it was one of the first movies that I saw with my dad, right?
Yeah.
So we watched the movie and we finished the movie, and it was one of the first times that it had made me like, you know, face bawling, you know, running, you know. So the movie ended, and me and my dad looked at each other, and we just both had just tears streaming down our face, and we laughed about it right after. And it was just really good, really good.
That's a great story. It's amazing how much media can like, you know, bring us together. And for you, Matt, do you have a favorite film?
Oh boy, you know, as a film major, I have seen a shockingly few amount of movies.
We'll change that.
I can't think of a favorite personally. But recently, I just watched Pulp Fiction for the first time ever.
It took me a while to watch Pulp Fiction, actually. Not gonna lie, yeah.
I also just watched what's that one? Oh man, Forrest Gump. Just
Mm.
watched that for
Forrest
the
Gump's
first
good.
time as well, like 2 weeks ago, and those are probably in my top 5 now
Awesome.
because
Awesome.
they're just amazing.
Fight Club. How do you feel about it?
You know what? I just watched that movie too,
Awesome.
like a month ago.
You're
for the
catching
first
up.
time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Cool. Cool.
Yeah, that movie is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
It's not something I could watch
Did
twice
you?
within a year,
Yeah.
but you know,
Yeah,
every couple of years I might come back to it and be like, this is just a masterpiece.
for sure.
I like it when you can rewatch a film and then discover it in a different way.
Oh yeah,
And I feel like Forrest Gump is one of those movies you can like watch it like a third time and be
I'm
like,
sure.
I feel differently about this now,
I'm
or
sure.
at a different stage in your life.
Annie,
Yeah.
Sebastian, thank you so much. I
Of
think that was
course.
a complete false alarm. I'm so glad to be back in front of camera, but
Mhm.
I think our time is up.
All
I think our
right.
time is up. So thank you both for being here. Thank you
Absolutely.
behind the camera. Thank you, crew. Thank you, zombies and robots in the audience, I think. Thank you so much. This has been Brain Dead Theater. Please join us tonight for Undead Live. And until then, we will see you at or perhaps in the movies.
Sweet.
And if the whole world says that we're cool, we